When the door closed behind you, I felt the air in the room change. It grew thick like fog before a storm, and the silence that usually feels like home suddenly took on a different tone, as if someone else's breath had entered it. I realized today you didn't come simply to listen. You came with a question that has been gnawing at you for a long time. A question that many try to hide behind jokes, habits, masks of confidence, and late night texts where people write each other phrases they no longer believe. You came to find out why love can break more deeply than any hatred, and why those who love wrongly continue to love, even when it destroys them from within. Sit down. Today I will show you a room that is dangerous to enter. But since you're already here, it means you need it. There's one strange thing I've noticed while observing people. You reach out to each other in the hope of healing. But more often than not, you find someone who only repeats the pain you once experienced. And instead of love, you receive a reflection of your own fractures. Today I will tell you a story, not someone else's, because other people's stories are inaccessible. This is the story of all those who loved wrongly. And perhaps your story. One day a girl came in here. She stood, clasping her arms around herself, as if afraid the world would melt beneath her fingers. I asked, "Why are you shaking?" She replied, "Because I love someone who hurts me to love. But without him, it hurts even more." She spoke quietly, as if every word wounded her. And as she spoke, the room filled with fragments of memories. They stretched across the walls like dark threads. She loved as no one should love, not forgetting herself, destroying herself. He was both light and shadow to her, caress and cold, shelter and storm. And every time he left, her world crumbled. But when he returned, she returned to him faster than he could open the door. She said, "I know he's breaking me, but I can't leave. I don't know how to live without him." At that moment, the room shook, because she spoke the truth that most people hide even from themselves. Love, which should heal, sometimes becomes a disease. And the more a person fears being alone, the more tightly they cling to the one who hurts them. You want to ask, why does this happen? Why can an intelligent, strong person blindly cling to a destructive relationship like a drowning man clings to a stone? The answer is simple, yet frightening. Because a person confuses love with need, confuses warmth with affection, confuses the habit of suffering with the depth of feeling. Most people aren't looking for love. They're looking for confirmation that they can be loved, especially those who haven't been loved enough in the past, at least once. Such people look at their partners not with the eyes of the heart, but with the eyes of fear. If he leaves, who will prove to me that I'm not a nobody? That's why the wrong kind of love holds so tightly. Wrong doesn't mean less. Sometimes wrong means deadly strong. It's precisely these kinds of feelings that bring people here to me. There was another guest, a guy. He entered the room with a confident step, but his eyes were empty. "Have you come for answers?" I asked. "No," he said. "I came for an excuse." This surprised me, but I listened. He told me about the girl he loved, about how he fought for her, how he endured, how he forgave. He constantly took steps toward her, even when she only pulled away. He did everything to prove to her that love existed, but she didn't believe it. She was wounded by her past, broken by the cold attitude of the husband she left, and disillusioned with everything. She didn't know how to accept warmth. It frightened her. She said, "You're too good. It scares me." And every time he tried to get closer, she closed herself off. When he showed concern, she saw it as a threat. When he spoke of feelings, she thought his words were a game. He said, "I was afraid of losing her, so I did everything." And she was afraid of love, so she rejected everything. He didn't understand why she did this, but I understood. Some people are afraid of not being loved. They're afraid of being loved correctly, because correct love is responsibility. It's honesty. It's a reflection in which you see the real you. And that's scarier than loneliness. The stories of such people are similar, but the room doesn't show me their faces, only their feelings. And one day I realized all who love incorrectly suffer the same, and they fear the same. They're afraid of being unwanted, of being forgotten, of being replaced, of being unloved. But most of all, they're afraid that they won't be able to cope without this person, even a bad one. They say, "I know things are bad for us, but I'm afraid things will get worse without him." This is the trap of wrong love. It whispers to the person, "Just don't leave. Be patient. Be patient a little longer. It will get better." But it doesn't get better. The person simply gets used to the pain. I want you to understand one thing. The room of those who love wrongly isn't a place where people are bad. It's a place where people are lost. They love too much because they were once given too little. They forgive too much because they were once not forgiven at all. They hold on too tightly because they once had to hold on to themselves alone. And love becomes not a feeling, but a means of survival. Now I'll ask you, have you ever endured more than you should have? Have you ever stayed where you weren't appreciated? Have you ever fought for a relationship alone? Have you ever thought that if you leave, it won't be the relationship that falls apart, but you? If you answered yes to at least one of these questions, then you know who I'm talking about. And so, this room isn't just a story. It's a mirror. But you didn't come here just to listen. You came for an answer. How to escape this kind of love. And I'll tell you the truth that people usually turn away from. To stop loving incorrectly, you must first unlearn how to tolerate pain. Because love shouldn't be either happiness or torment. It shouldn't be a battle where every new day is either victory or defeat. Love is the space in which a person becomes themselves. And if you become worse around someone, that's not love. That's addiction. And the only way out is to admit it. But there's another truth. Sometimes a person doesn't leave because they're weak, but because they weren't taught anything. They were taught to endure. They were taught to save others. They were taught to change themselves for the sake of someone else's comfort. They were taught that love is pain. So when they meet someone who breaks them, They think it's normal. That's how it should be. And as long as they think that way, they won't leave this room. Do you know what's the scariest thing? Wrong love doesn't end the moment the person leaves. It ends the moment hope fades. Quietly. No scandals. No scenes. No final words. One day, a person simply wakes up and realizes, today I don't want to fight. Today I need myself. This is the moment when the door in the room begins to open. But you ask, if a person leaves because of the wrong love, will they find the right one? I will answer, true love doesn't begin with the other person. It begins with yourself. When you stop fearing loneliness, when you understand that you deserve warmth simply because you are alive, when you stop trying to prove your worth, when you choose not to suffer, but to be at peace with yourself, then love appears. Real, quiet, no drama, no struggle. And it never comes to a place where a person still clings to past pain. You're sitting quietly. So you're listening. And perhaps while I was speaking, you remembered someone, a person you held on to too tightly, relationships that burned you slowly, words that held you back, moments when you close your eyes to the obvious. Perhaps you saw your life in this story. That's good. The room doesn't exist to frighten, but to show the truth. And now I'll tell you the last and most important thing. Wrong love isn't a death sentence. It's a lesson. It comes into a person's life so they understand they deserve more. So they grow. So they see who they become next to someone who doesn't appreciate them. So they can one day say, I choose myself. And when you say that, the room turns off the lights. Because its mission is accomplished. The door before you is ajar. You can leave if you want. But remember, love isn't something to cling to out of fear. Love is what's supposed to keep you alive. If it kills you, it's not love. This is the room, and you don't have to stay in it anymore.